I have arrived. Whee! I guess so. I can hear myself weeing in the background. Ian says, "Hey, everybody." Ready to rock and roll. Robert says, "Siofra, hello. It has been 5,000 years, laugh out loud. Oh my, that's been a long time. Rock and roll? I like that." Carla says, "Yay, happy Sunday, Siofra and Ian. How was your week?" It was okay. It was wet. It was wet. Ian got a new doctor, liked her very much. Everything turned out well. He has his last infusion tomorrow, so yay for that. Arcane says, "Hi. Hi, Arcane." Carla says, "Rock and roll." Ian says, "Throw those questions at us, but not so hard that we have to duck." Robert says, "Today in Quebec, plus 30 Celsius. Whoa! We never saw that before." Oh, I know. Climate change isn't real. There's no such thing. That's be 100 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. If I remember my conversion charts. Pretty close anyway. I'd have to look that up, but that's hot. Teresa says, "Hi, I feel so organized today. Wow." Yay, Teresa. Robert says, "Yes, near 100. All right.
6 Fahrenheit.
86? Oh,
30
less.
Celsius is 86.
Okay, according to the conversion chart, it's 86. So still hot for October. I mean, I remember up in the Kispiox, we always had our first snow in October, usually before Halloween. So, yeah. Carlos says, "Ooh, speaking of rock and roll, did you see the statement from Blue Oyster Cult concerning the weirdness with the satire?"
No.
No.
Where was this?
What satire?
Let me know. I'm a big fan of Blue Oyster Cult, so.
And Robert says, "Yesterday, 10 chemtrails. Did they do that? Or warm today, a natural effect?" No, I think chemtrails are not a real thing. Those are only happen in the upper atmosphere because of the cold temperatures, kind of like what happens in your car in the wintertime when you see all that smoke
Yeah,
coming out of the
they're
rear
mostly
end.
condensed water.
Mostly
Yeah.
condensed water. There's a little bit of,
Yeah.
rocket fuel or
Whatever's in the
whatever
atmosphere.
whatever
Yeah.
kind of fuel they use, the engine fuel that they have, obviously particles just like there is with the car, but I don't think they add anything special to it in order to affect the weather, so that's my opinion. So Robert says, "Yep, far too hot and 100% not normal." Teresa says, "It is snowing in Alberta today, raining here in Manitoba." Arcane says, "What's the topic tonight?" I don't know. Tell us. What is the topic tonight? Although I saw a question about charging up wands and whether you had to do it on the full moon or not on my page, on our group, on my Facebook page. And I answered the question just before we got started, and the answer is it doesn't matter what time of month it is when you charge up your wand, in my opinion. What matters is how you feel. That's kind of, your energy and your focus and your concentration and your purpose in charging the wand, because wands are usually general purpose tools, unlike all the ones I make, but in general, that's what they are. So, yeah. So charging up objects and wands could be a subject. Robert says, "Snow." Teresa, "Wow." Carla says, "I'll message Siofra because it's kind of political." Robert says, "The topic is Halloween magic." Gasco says, "Hi, everybody. Been a long time since I was here." Yes, I don't remember seeing your name forever. Robert says, "Or rituals for this coming Halloween." Oh, yeah. It's that time of year. We're getting close. Carla says, "Ian, they were my first concert at 11 years old. Godzilla was their hit, and the opener was the Romantics." As far as Blue Oyster Cult, you got to meet them, didn't you? Or was
Yeah, twice actually. Got to talk to them twice after concerts, just around the area where I lived. Just kind of more or less by accident, we just hung around the right place, and they took a break briefly, and it happened to be where I was standing concert.
Gasco says, I was Ella there. Okay, so you guys change your names and I'm supposed to know that. Robert says, Gadzooks, I forgot to buy my candles for Halloween. Well, there might still be some in the stores. That's usually when I go out to buy my black candles this time of year. But right now I have plenty of them, so I haven't been going out to buy more. When we had a group, we bought them, you know, every year all of us would go out and get and purchase so many black candles that they would run out. But that's because the only time of year it's cool to be a witch, and nobody bats an eye about it, mostly, except for the other people that hate witches all year round. Carla says, "Me too, Ian. I know Eric Bloom and the Romantics."
Oh well, I don't know any of them, but I got to meet them twice, and that was just way cool. But there had been like for years and years, like my overall favorite band. Of course,
Yeah, it was
this,
disappointing to
not
find
me,
out
yeah.
that they didn't write all the favorite music.
Well,
But
no, that was fine. But once they got rid of uh, Sandy Pearlman, they went with Ronnie James Dio, and I don't know who's writing their stuff now. And I didn't care for his writing as part of the group. So
Yeah.
that album, like one song in there, I liked a little bit, but yeah. But overall, though, they've written some
very mystical,
good music
magical
since then, yeah.
tunes. Robert says, Halloween for me is kind of, well, witchy season. Ha ha. Bats, ghosts. Aaron says, hello. Hi, Aaron. Teresa says, I was looking to find a Count Dracula plush toy, but no luck. Oh, Count Dracula plush toy. It'd be so cute. You could just, like, all year round, just tickle him. Oh, Count Dracula, you're just so adorable. And he'd be like, no, don't tickle me. It makes me laugh. I'm not supposed to. Carla says, Don't Fear the Reaper is one of my faves. Yep, us too.
Oyster Cult manager Steve Schenk told HuffPost the band was not contacted about this in advance, but he didn't elaborate further. And apparently there was a Saturday Night Live skit, and they changed the lyrics from Don't Fear the Reaper to Russ Vought is the Reaper. Yeah, things like that.
Well, Saturday Night Live has, they do their own thing. There's no doubt about it. Robert says, we can count on the count. Also, the season for horror movies. I will fetch my popcorn.
It says on Thursday night, the president posted an AI music video spoofing Blue Oyster Cult's 76 classic Don't Fear the Reaper to mock the fears of Americans. Fear their lives will be drastically affected by budget cuts advocated by the Republicans.
Okay, we don't need to go into that.
Nope.
You're right. That's very political. You want to open
Yep.
up the windows? It's already getting warm in here.
Sure.
But yes, he's getting rid of a bunch of food stamps for people in my state, so that'll be fun when we find out how much less we're going to be getting to pay for food. Like, wow. Yeah, Carlos says it wasn't SNL, it was the administration, so he found it. So, yes. But, no accounting for that guy. Elidor says, changed. Don't know when and how that happened. I'm not very active on YouTube. So now you've changed back. Shay says, that sucks about the food stamps. Yeah, it definitely sucks. I guess it's going to be time to start going to food banks. Carla says, I'm so sorry. I'm just super proud they addressed it because I know it was hard. Well, I don't know. Did you guys hear about the witches on Etsy that lost their site because they did a hex on Charlie Kirk? They hexed him to get a bad haircut, and then
Yeah, it wasn't even. It was like a bad haircut, really. And they cut them from the site
and
because of
2
that.
days later he got killed. And I don't know how it became public information,
Well,
who
clearly,
told
though,
on them, or if they told on
clearly, though,
themselves.
that's just a joke. Cursing somebody for a bad hair that they get a bad haircut. I mean, they may have actually done a curse to make him have a bad haircut, but still, that's just, that's just a bit of humor, basically.
Well, someone paid them to do it. They didn't do it on their
Well,
own.
still,
But
get a
still,
bad
I
haircut.
agree.
I mean, you know,
I
who's going to
agree.
be like wildly concerned about
I mean, so they lost their Etsy site.
that? Yeah.
So there were two women witches that I saw in the article that I read about it, and so like I said, I don't know how the information got out there, but I don't see that that's a good thing to have that out there because the MAGA Christian right is already so panicked about
I know
evil and Satanism and
they don't
witches
take a
and
joke like that.
yeah,
No.
and they already have that mindset to start with, and shining a light on us like that doesn't seem to be
But I
very
mean,
good.
still cursing somebody for a bad haircut. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you 100% on that. So, Arcane, see, Carlos says, yes, I heard. Oh, Robert says, why is there a star near certain members on this chat? Oh, that's probably because they're members and they pick their own little icon. Shay says, yes, the witches of Etsy, yikes. That's also why their names are in color. Robert says, those witches? Don't know. I'll fetch information on this. Carlos says, the head witch put out a statement. What was she thinking? Shay says, yes, lost their Etsy site and added to the bad rep for ourselves. Teresa says the Jezebel article tipped them off, and then a bunch of people reported their shop to Etsy, which is why they took it down. Robert says, oh, Siofra, how well you know about the stories we keep hearing from New Orleans, those vampire legends and Count Saint Germain. Carlos says, yep, the Jezebel article. Yeah, well, I've heard another news story from New Orleans lately, and it was also not good for the pagan community, but at least it was pagans and pagans, not, it was witch on witch kind of stuff rather than, yeah. That I didn't even want to go into because I just read it for the first time this morning. But, witch wars, they're they're hard to watch. Rose says, I know, right? I can't believe anyone did that. So, I don't do spells for other people. Period. I mean, I do healing. That's what I do. And I'll do any of that kind of stuff, but I won't write spells for people. I won't do spells for people just because I want people to do stuff for themselves. And if they didn't have the oomph to do their own hacks, why would I? But in any event, it's a charged atmosphere right now, and with Halloween coming up, I'm sure that doesn't help.
I'm sure the karma for causing somebody a bad haircut is pretty dang minor. Probably getting a bad haircut yourself, I mean, at the most.
Directly, as far as it goes, but the karma for putting all witches in a bad light and getting everybody in trouble.
Well, yeah, but still,
I don't know.
I wouldn't have thought that would,
I wouldn't either, but I'm not a crazy person.
Obviously, it got them in trouble, but yeah. I wouldn't have thought so. I think that was pretty just mild humor.
I think it was Etsy trying to cover their own rear end and worrying about
it's true.
Backlash.
You have to watch out no matter what it is. You have to watch out. If you poke a bear, you never know what'll happen.
That's true.
Might not even know you're poking a bear.
Carlos says, I saw your post. I wasn't aware of him. Neither was I. That's the first time I've seen anything about that guy. And I read through all of it. I read that article, then I read the response that they mentioned in that article by the other woman, the Alexandrian, and yeah. So I went through that whole page there. So Robert says, Siofra, what do you plan to do on Hallows Eve? I don't know this year. I mean, last year we did a whole thing with the family because there was a lot of people in the family that had died. Friends that our witch friend had died, and my granddaughter's father had died, and a good friend of my daughter's had died, and my daughter-in-law's mother had died. So we had a really strong reason to get together to do what often the season is for, talking to the dead and kind of taking an opportunity to process and say things that are on your mind, especially if you weren't there when it happened or you have unresolved issues with them from when they were alive that you're still carrying around with you and that kind of thing. So that's what we did last year. I do like to do the reading of the people that were murdered during the burning times, and I actually recorded that. So I'm going to post that on here so people can use that if they want to in their own rituals instead of, having to find it. And we had, let's see, how many people were there? We had my son and his wife, my daughter, my granddaughter, you and me. Yeah, so there were 6 of us, and we split up the list of what I consider my ancestors, even if they weren't actually witches or not. They were accused of being so and were, harmed because of it. And we read all together. Each one of us read our names, the names aloud. um, it makes a very powerful kind of experience, chant sort of a thing. So I have that recording, and I'm going to put that up so that people can use that for their ritual if they want to, or they can just listen to it and see what it's like. I can't remember how long it is, but yeah, I thought that would be a good idea since we were doing it. And this year, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what comes up. I want to do. Let's see. So Shay says, Siofra, back to the food stamp issue for just a second. They do wind up adversely affecting you two, and we'd like for you both to continue to eat without having to spend time at food banks. Arcane says, oh no, Ian, everyone knows it's ×3.
Karma.
Karma, yeah.
We'd have to get 3 bad haircuts sent for that.
I guess in a row.
Yep.
Shay says, where could we contribute? Well, if you want to contribute, you can always go to my PayPal account. Siofra's Magic Alcove is my PayPal account. I get most of the money when people donate through my PayPal account. My other avenues, like Etsy, takes a certain percentage of it, and I do have 2 donations up on Etsy for people that are out of the country and find that easier, or whatever. But
it's not like we're going to be starving, though. My Social Security will be coming in like.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But thank you for the thought. I appreciate it. Teresa says he also owns a couple of big witchy stores. He wanted me to wholesale to him, but I heard about his reputation from a couple of people. He was quite persistent with me, but eventually backed off. Well, that's good. Because from what I read, you don't want to actually have anything to do with this guy. So good on you for saying no right up front. Yeah, he sounds like a piece of work. And if you guys don't know who we're talking about, I guess you can look it up and see. Conflict with Witch in New Orleans. Warlock. The Warlock of New Orleans. He runs a bunch of things. Toxic male energy, unfortunately. So Shay says, last year for Samhain, you also read the names of the martyrs. Yes, and we talked about that. So yeah. And, for me, this is one of my favorite times of year. Of course, Beltane is my other favorite time of year, so I kind of like all of them. I don't want to, but maybe I'll make a new hat, new witch's hat this year. Because I can't find the one I already decorated. It kind of vanished somewhere. I could go to just a regular shop, not the fancy ones, and make my own fancy one because I like to make my own things anyway. So yeah. Carla says, people like him is why I don't go to witchy gatherings. Understandable. I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't matter what the community is, what the belief systems supposedly are. You're going to have some negative people in any religion, any spiritual belief system, any culture. They're always out there. There's just sort of a percentage of them that exists. That's all there is to that. So being aware of your own boundaries, which is why we talk about boundaries all the time. So good use of your boundaries, Teresa. Knowing what's not good for you and not kowtowing to someone else's pressure just because they might have a bigger reputation or what have you, or a bigger ego, whatever it happens to be. But yeah, we've seen some witch wars go by, and it's a strange thing. It's like, I don't understand why they just start attacking each other, and they get totally crazy, throwing spells on one another and all sorts of stuff. It's just like, really? Have you not learned anything?
Yeah, we saw it destroy, basically. There's a local town near us, and there used to be a lot of witchcraft going on and a lot of witchy stores and stuff, and then they got into the witch wars and it destroyed the community enough. We'd go up there and it was like
All of them
hardly
were
anything
gone.
left. Yeah.
Shops were gone.
Yep.
Yeah, and in fact, I was talking this morning, I was talking about some of the things that you can do in your home. When we talked last week about decoration, I wasn't talking about actual decoration kind of things, but more like magical things you can put in your house that other people might think are decorations, but wouldn't know that they were, protective spells or what have you, sort of flying under the radar. And one of the experiences that we had when there were witchy shops, there actually was this wonderful witch shop in a major mall in Springfield. And they had put up a wooden framing, carved with runes and things like that on the outside of their space in the mall. So they were the only place that had that. They clearly did it themselves. And when I approached the lintel, I could immediately feel the threshold spell that they had put on it. It was just very obvious. So as soon as I walked from the mall outside into the store inside, it's like you're not in the same mall anymore. You're in a different location. And I've experienced that in a number of other places. We experienced that when we were up at the ashram when it was up in Portland. They had a similar thing where the energy of the land where it was at was significantly different and separated from the rest of Portland. And, so you can do things like that in your own home. And those who are aware, like I was, I knew what they had done as soon as I walked under it. But an average person going in and just sort of looking around is probably not going to feel it. So it's just sort of interesting. So I thought that was pretty cool. Arcane says, decorate your own hat. Wow, great idea. Carla says, at the flea market, I found a hand-blown glass witch ball for $20. It's now in my window. Awesome. Ella Deer says, I was speaking today with someone about egregores. So we were curious, is there a way that the egregore feeds himself, or do we have to always feed him regularly that it works, like a spell egregore?
Well,
And to have triggers and words of power to activate the egregore.
well, it's advised.
I don't think you have to do it daily.
Well, but it's a complicated question. Now, if you look up the Saturn fraternity, the Fraternitatis Saturni, or whatever it is, they had an egregore that they worshipped, which was a bust of a head, and they worshipped it as a Saturn deity. So the egregore built up strength from its worshippers, but it was also it was not I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Self
Self-generating.
motivated, self generating. There is a possibility, and Barton describes it, if you make a 5 element, basically a little 5 element, you wouldn't call it an elemental, but you can basically do one with 5 elements and the light.
We did that enlivening
and,
a statue.
Yeah, and you could come up with something self-acting. You could program it that way and make it so that it could take actions on its own like that. So number one, it's possible, though very difficult, to make one like that, but it is possible. The second problem is you lose control of it. The minute you make it self-acting, and if you've done one, especially with like most egregores have a bunch of people worshiping them, then the overall, in that case, the overall goal, what would be considered the overall, it's going to take, like, the energy is going to like average everybody's thoughts about what it is, and it's going to become, the average of what everybody thinks it is, which might be totally different from what it was actually intended for.
So group mind kind of thing?
Yeah, you could end up with a different kind of group mind that would do its own thing, and necessarily, maybe most of the people charging it up say had a lot of unsolved conflicts in their life and a lot of anger, like a whole bunch of angry people decided to make an egregore. In that case, it might have a built-in anger of its own and might do angry things regardless of what anybody tells it to do. So I mean, it's possible, but very difficult, and takes a whole lot of knowledge to make something like that. And somebody who had enough knowledge to make something like that, I basically believe wouldn't do so. So, um, but it is possible to make them. They could be self-activating, or they could escape. You could make your own elemental. Barden talks about it, and if you let it get too powerful and lose control of it, then it can go out on its own, and it'll usually, if it goes out on its own and you lose control over it, it'll start vampirizing off other people and things, and basically it'll become a vampire. And all that is karmated, and all that is on your karma. Everything, if an elemental gets away because you don't keep it under control enough and starts doing damage, that's all on your karma. And especially if you did a 5 element one that was capable of self-acting, everything it did, if it was a group one, goes on the karma of all the group members. They would all share it equally, so to speak. But that doesn't mean if you made your elemental go out and kill a person that everybody would die in the group, and it also doesn't mean that murder would. Each person has a responsibility for what happens. So, in that case, my opinion, a group wouldn't spread out the karma as such, but each person would have the karma as if they did that thing themselves. Everybody who contributed to it. So, it's a real complicated and interesting subject.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but didn't mean to go on so long about
No.
it, but yeah, it's.
Ron says, hello and blessings to you all. Hi, Ron. Carla says, the little girl next door is nonverbal autistic. This place draws her, and she always makes a beeline for my door after school. I have a wisteria branch to decorate. I saw that. That looked fabulous. All nice and twisted and stuff like that. It's just wonderful looking. Teresa took a message back. Beth says, hi, everyone. And everyone says, hi, Beth. Teresa says, what do people think about celebrating the stereotypical witch hag?
Well, personally, I don't find that offensive or anything myself. I just I don't care.
I always dress as a very
It's an
sexy
individual
witch.
thing.
So apparently I did not go for the witch hag. So, it all depends. Some people
I
find
don't
it
know.
offensive and some people don't.
Yeah, really, I don't care, but I don't see why anyone would attach themselves to what is perceived by many people as kind of a negative image.
Right.
You know,
Giant warts on
I,
their
I would,
face.
I would just, the witch hag idea. Yeah, I mean, crone idea makes more sense to me.
Right, the crone
And,
doesn't have to be ugly.
and you don't, really, you don't have to attach yourself to an ugly image like that, and I don't think it's really healthy to do so. I mean, for Halloween a year, like, okay, it's fun, but I would actually myself, I've never done this, but I would be careful about dressing like movie villains, or really, like, especially the bigger ones like Jason, or the Friday the 13th ones or something, dressing like one of those movie villains, because you might pull too much of that negative energy in, even if you're just doing it for a Halloween celebration.
Depends on
You
who
know.
you are. I always dressed as a fairy or a goddess. Or a magical creature of some kind.
Well,
Yeah.
well, Carla. So for no reason, your comment was held again. I do the sexier witchy look too. That was held as a comment.
Ah. So Robert says, what do you know about the jinns?
So that's lame.
And Sophia says, hello, everyone.
Well, not too much about the jinn, except for the fact that they were originally
Fire
fire
spirit.
spirits. And it's possible that Muhammad was actually a jinn, or informed by a jinn. Informed by a jinn, I think, was what it was.
Now you met in the desert.
Yeah, anyway, that's just some.
Speculation.
Yeah, just from just very little research on the subject. But yeah, basically they're fire spirits, but I don't know. I haven't delved into that aspect of it in particular. I know that there's some genuine documents out there that report some interesting magical stuff that actually is done with jinns. the Arabian magic and stuff seems pretty effective for those that can really do it.
If it's your
And
cultural
there,
background,
yeah, and there's not that many, but yeah, there are some. I can't think of the guy's name. There are some things I read of somebody who reported seeing a number of things done with gin and things, that kind of magic. But yeah,
So Carla says, gins are a little tricky. I know, you're not asking me.
yeah.
Elidor says, aha, thank you very much. I was working with nature as an egregore that is connected to nature because nature feeds itself. It was a very intense experience, but also very chaotic. So thanks so much. Appreciate it. Bree Farron says, hey guys. Hi, Brianna. Carla says, I was so excited to find that. Shay says, hi, Beth. I prefer the Witch Queen.
Yeah, I'd look at the gins just as an aspect. The fire elementals all have different jobs and do different things. Like in Barton's book, there's the fire elementals, and the gin is just another hierarchy of fire elementals that have probably their own rules and laws and things to do to work with them. Yeah.
So Shay says, crone originally meant crown, hence queen. Carla says, I do prefer horns to hat, though. Yeah, Maleficent's horns were fabulous. Teresa says, witch hag has strong grandmother energy for me. Reminds me of the old country and my grandmother spoke about. I'm going as a witch this year. The post strike is holding up my plan for a Medusa costume. Oh, postal strike. Sorry to hear that.
Apparently, Beth, I had to show that one. Apparently, it doesn't like the word sexy. Any word sexy, apparently it holds.
Oh, great. She says, Siofra, you have a history of some glorious costumes. Yes, you've seen a few of them. I like the one when I painted my entire body silver and made those butterfly wings and went as a fairy. That was fun.
I don't know. I understand. The trying to. YouTube is trying to weed out like all the sex sites and things like Plagued Us for a while. The site where they're putting all the porn through, but they hold a little too much stuff. I guess it doesn't matter. I can just approve it as moderator, so as long as it shows up for everybody.
So Ron says, may I have a better look at your necklace? Thank you. I have two necklaces on. This one is Seraphonite. And then this one is an amethyst that Jacqueline made and gave to me. So she does wire wrapping. I'm learning some wire wrapping right now. See if I can make sure you can see it well. That's a nice chunk of dark amethyst in the center.
Yeah. Kind of hard to off to put them like.
Yeah, I don't want to take them off though, because then I have to put them back on.
That's okay.
All right. That's as good a look as you're going to get at the moment. Robert says, which creatures win the celebrity contest of better representing Halloween? Bats? Cats? Anything that likes to go out in the dark, I guess. Since it's the dark time of year. Either one would do fine. Beth says, I'm usually a goddess or magical creature. Yeah, I'm on board with that. Robert says, really, Beth? Hello, Beth. Robert says, nice to see you, Beth. Beth says, hi, Robert. Angelwood says, hello. Hi, Angel. Bree says, you guys can still call me Gabrielle. I will, when I remember. Beth says, wow, some channels say the F word, and others, Teresa says, I still have, like, my Frankenstein costume. It was a super fun night. Oh, now here's a synchronicity for you guys. This was funny. I was looking at some movies, and so I found the 1978 version of Doctor Strange, which is sort of loosely based on the character from the comics, but not really very closely, which was entertaining to watch. And I also found the 1938 Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. So we watched the Doctor Strange movie. We haven't watched the other one yet. But in that Doctor Strange movie, in the hospital, the other movie, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, was playing on the TV.
And not only just a little bit, we saw multiple scenes of it at different times during the show.
So we consider that a super synchronicity that I randomly got two different shows to watch, and one of them was embedded in the other. Just like,
yeah, those are the two she downloaded at the same time, so that's pretty awesome.
So yeah, that was something else. Shay says, or just do what Ian said. Beth says, Bree, I'll be changing mine soon. Carla says, Ian, I already showed Siofra, but oh my God, I found the secret teachings of all the ages. Yes, I was going to
Cool.
tell him before, and she found a copy of it for like $30, I think it was.
Cool, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so
I
she,
think I paid like 60 for my black and white copy back when I bought it new.
yeah. Robert says, I like my new costume, the Invisible Man. I don't show up. You can just tell them that you were there and they just didn't see you, and then no one can. That says kitties. They're the best representation of Halloween. Ron says matches your purple top. Sweet, thank you. Carla says at Barnes and Noble, it was the only one there. I never expected them to have something like that in the store. Teresa says cruel synchronicity. Sylph says, can we create a guardian to protect a home against trespassers?
Yes.
Yes.
Short answer.
I have a whole bunch of different types of guardians in my garden, which is a good place to put those kind. I have like I guess what could be considered a demon type mask that I painted that's on my house. I have some foo lions that a foo lion out there, and then I have my witch balls that I made that are hanging in my yard,
I would like to recommend Garuda too, because
and we have some of those.
you get a Garuda and you invoke the Garuda energy right into it. He was
He's a guardian.
protector and transport of Vishnu. He'd fly Vishnu around.
And he
he's a
really
guardian
likes
spirit,
his
and
followers.
He
He's
protects
very
against
protective.
serpents
Yeah.
specifically. Very, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's kind of beside the point. But
Yeah.
yes, he's a very, very good protector for his followers. So something like that.
And he even likes to take you on flights sometimes. He'll pick you up in the middle of the night and you'll wake up on his wings.
And you can also have talismans and things that don't have an active, protection like that. But that would be one of the easiest ways. You can make a guardian, or what a lot of people call a servitor. But in my opinion, that takes a lot more energy to make that up and do it right than it does to like invoke Garuda into a statue of him, because he's an energy that's already made and he's already out there that already provides protection to his followers. But I would recommend if you need to be a little in tune with Indian philosophy and thoughts and things, and then we seem to get along with him great.
Okay, so not seeing where that Tina Nanaj said, I got scared and told it to go away. Do you know what such a being might be or what it could represent? Can you give us more detail? Because I don't see a previous statement. Maybe it got held to or didn't show up. So what exactly was it that you experienced? If you can, tell us something more. What scared you? Then I might be able to answer the question.
Well, Shay's got held too, so the SE apostrophe Y didn't work. They still held that, Shay.
That says, if they get through my barrier, the magical beings will get them. If they get through my barrier. Brianna says, that sounds fun. Oh yeah, the flying on the wings is great fun. I did it one time and I was quite surprised because I'd read about it, but I thought, yeah, right. And then all of a sudden here I am and holding on to these pinions. I look up and I see other people holding on their gigantic wings. I mean, Garuda is cool because he can cover your entire property. And he can cover like a town if he wants. I mean, he can get as big as he wants. And in Indian mythology, he actually is how the mountains and the valleys were created with the tip of his wings as he flew across the countryside. When his wings would touch the ground and then would come up, his going down would make the burrows, and then coming up would make the mountains.
Okay, I think we've got a missing message here from Tia. She I went back like way too far. So I can't find the previous question to what a being like that. Oh no, I lost it. I got scared and told to go away.
Yeah,
You know,
I read
such a
that.
being might be or it could represent, but I don't see a previous.
So we need a new question or new information, I guess.
Yeah, Tia, I think what happened is your first question about that didn't come through, so we didn't get a description, and I don't know why, but this happens sometimes. YouTube's been holding a lot of comments entirely. We don't ever get to see them, so we didn't ever see what your description of the being was. So that's why your answer is like weird. It disappeared, and they do that occasionally. So please re-ask your question, and maybe we can.
So Carla says, I have a lucky barong sitting on my TV stand as a guardian protector and charmed doormats and plants. Cool. Robert says, Siofra, that digital ID thing for a possible new world order, in what way are you concerned? At the moment, I figure they already have all that stuff, so I'm not any more concerned than I was the day before. And it's like, you know, so I try not to think about it too much. What do you want from me? I think that was, you're answering that question. Beth says, yes, Carla. Carla says, and charmed paintings, all sorts of stuff, even an eye mirror. Cool. Jay says, good to know, Ian, thank you. Carla says, you know, Bethy, how about Exys? EXYS?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't know what that is. Jay says, about them holding my comments for that one. Oh, that did get through. EXYX. S got through.
Ah, I see.
I understand now. Duh. Okay, another conversation.
I wonder if you tried it backwards. That would work if you did it backwards. We'll just type everything backwards, type our sentences backwards.
Gabrielle says, that's cool. Jen says, hello, everyone. Blessed be. Gabrielle says, hey, Jen. T says, what do you want from me? I want a description of what you're talking about, because it just says that you were afraid and told it to go away, and what do I think it was? And I have no information about what happened and what it was. We didn't see a comment about that. So if you could ask a question with the information in it, or at least give us the information, like what happened?
Yeah.
Was it like, you know, a shadow? Was it a being? Was it a fire? Was it,
You're basically, I assume you made a previous comment to that and it disappeared. So
yeah, we don't have anything.
We don't get to see them. Some of them YouTube just disappears.
So that's what we want from you, more information, so we can answer maybe the question. Jay says that Carla, hooray for barongs. Robert says, read any good books lately, Siofra? Not lately. I've been trying to write my own, so working on that. Thea says, I have written many times. Are you talking about writing me an email? Because this is a live show, so I don't remember all of my emails. So I'm sorry, I can't answer the question.
We're just confused, I'm sorry. But however it happened, we're confused.
Ron says, I've written charms on paper in watercolor ink, then dissolve the ink in water. I then spray the charmed water around. Works well for any type of magic. You can easily adapt this method and add. It says here in chat, no, it hasn't come through. Maybe change the wording. For some reason, YouTube is not allowing it, and we have no control over that if we can't see it.
Or no clue, yeah. Yeah, we're not seeing it, so somehow you've got to change the words, use an alliteration. YouTube has started censoring everything, and a lot of it we have no choice in. They only show us a few things that we can choose to show or hide. Most of it gets censored without us even knowing, and it's censoring common words that aren't profanity or anything, so I don't know,
Yeah.
Just find a way to reword it. It's the only thing I can suggest that they might let through.
Teresa says, I think T may mean she has kept commenting here. No?
Yeah,
yes, I think she does.
Yeah, I think we're just not seeing it, so you'll need to wait, maybe change all the words, or if you use the word as a description. We found last session that the word terror or terrorism doesn't get through, regardless of what the post is about.
Right. Sometimes they don't like anatomically correct words either. Yeah. It's very strange.
And unfortunately, we don't get to see those that are automatically censored. They're just censored and they never show up for us either.
And if there's any curse words in them, they don't show up for sure, obviously.
I'm the moderator and I don't even get that stuff. I just get just a few of them.
Teresa says, or use spaces in keywords. Carlos, is it some kind of weird AI glitch with the system they're running here? Yeah, and I don't have AI Assist or anything on like that
No, but they've
on
got
purpose,
it's just
but that
on,
doesn't
yeah,
mean it's
no,
not
it's
in the
just running
background.
on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I try to stay as much away from the whole AI thing as I can, as far as like I answer all my own questions. I don't let the AI answer them, which was one of their offers, and I'm like, no, thank you. Ron says, by the way, does Ian ever have his own live chats?
No, I'm a little too. I have a lot of. It's getting better, but still some shyness issues and social anxiety issues. So I'm a lot better. I can pretty much talk openly if I'm off screen or if I got a preset thing I'm gonna do. But yeah, I don't really do the lives.
You're getting a lot better and more comfortable
Yeah,
with it.
but I get
But
uncomfortable if I was the only one doing it. So
yeah.
yeah, I still have social issues. So no, I don't generally. I can answer. I'll answer questions and things if I can.
So last week, people were asking, I think it was Teresa, about doing a Moita session on YouTube. And so we're definitely going to do that. And we're going to have to set it up a specific way so that I'm not doing, we're going to have someone else do like the controlling kind of thing. And with a Moita session, the way it works, Ian will have to be there, so I have a person that I can like connect to start the channeling, and then one person, she only talks to one person at a time. That's kind of the way she works. So if you join that particular chat or session or whatever, then you'll have however much time she chooses to spend with you to interact with. And then we'll see what happens, because I have no clue. Never tried it before. It's a brand new thing. But we are going to look into doing it, and we're actively talking about it right now. So, Robert says, Siofra, I feel energy way more than before and more balanced than before. When an off people is near me, I know right away, and if I detect that person is evil, I get angry too easily. Why? Because it's a body reaction to some yucky thing. So it's a good clue to let you know you need to get away from them. And they're
Yeah, and those
probably up to
things,
no good.
and those things, they activate a similar thing. If you fill yourself up with love and then you approach a person, that person will naturally uh, reflect that back to you, even if they don't realize it, even if you're not talking about it out loud. And the same thing with angry or anything. And a lot of those people that are that type of people are projecting telepaths and they project it right out. So, yeah, that's. I had a boss that was like that, was a projecting telepath. I could tell if he was mad when he was coming into work in the morning about 15 to 20 minutes before he got there. I'd know
So
if he
like
was
10
mad or
miles
not.
away or more.
Yep. Yep. And so they make that, well, and yeah, and, but you don't have to just accept it because you can work on talismans and things to block that out and reflect it. Work on your own aura. If you strengthen your own aura, you'll be less affected by other people.
And then you
Things
can
like
be
that.
aware of it, but not emotionally triggered
Yeah,
by
not
it.
not get necessarily affected by it.
Right, which is better. It's a
Yeah.
better place to be,
Yeah.
because if you just have an anger response, that energy can take over and make you do something that you will then later
Yeah,
regret.
and if you work on one thing I used to do that sometimes worked really well, depending on how much I worked on it, was putting myself inside an iron, pretending I was inside like an iron or a steel ball bearing. It was all shiny. It was solid metal. It was so hard that nothing could get through it, and it reflected all the evil back away. And that was for extreme cases of anger aimed at me. Generally a person wants to do protection. They don't want to keep out everything. They want to let the good things in and keep the bad things out. But that steel ball image worked really well for me, so much so that sometimes I wouldn't be affected at all by somebody's anger if I got it up ahead of time. Problem with that is you have to know ahead of time you need it and put it up. And then sometimes you can even be not affected at all by their anger if you're just like reflected off, and then people don't know what to do. They come out with a bunch of anger and at you like my boss did one day, and I was
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
And then after all this yelling at me, I just looked at it, and because I had already done this ahead of time, I looked at him and said, "Are you done now?" I went on with what I was doing, and he didn't know what to do about that.
Talk about pulling the plug on
Yep.
his expectations.
Yep. So it's a good exercise for things like that. Put yourself in a ball bearing at least. You know, it doesn't have to be permanent. Be temporarily just for that moment, or you can have one that you put on or take off at will, depending on whether you want it.
You
Put
don't want it
into
to
a
be
talisman.
permanent because then you're
You know,
disconnected from everything.
it's good to use labradorite or tigerite to charge those up with that for reflecting stuff back.
So Carla says, yep, I won't use AI either, even when I look things up. I won't use the automatic AI overview that pops up as the first choice. Yeah, me neither. Teresa says, when am I going to be able to view Ian's latest video? Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock our time is when it goes live for people that aren't members of the channel. So that's what I'm doing. Instead of making two separate videos, one for members and one for subscribers, I'm letting the members view them for a few days before everybody else. So they get like privileges, I guess, for their membership, which we really appreciate, and we're trying to find ways to honor that. So that's what's happening. Beth says, I enjoy watching their videos on TV. Jay says, about Ian's shyness, your latest video was incredible. You seemed very much at ease. Very cool.
Well, thank you, Shay. Nobody was watching me when I made it.
That helps.
That was the trick, yep.
Carla says, Robert, I can sense it too, even from a distance. And Sophia says, what session? A Moida session? I channeled Moida for a number of years from like 1978 until like, well, 10 years anyway. And apparently was a famous New Age channel, which was news to me when I looked myself up. And I've had a few times that I've done it since then when we had a group, a working group, or trying to get a working group together, magical people, and they wanted to do the drawing down the moon ceremony. We did Moida sessions with the group so I could get back into that energetic open frame of mind of allowing an energy to enter me and use my voice. I'm not a trance medium, but an awake medium, I guess. I don't know what they call it. And so a few people have read the books that were written about me by my former partner. And certainly some of the things I learned from her is in our videos and so forth. And someone approached and asked if I'd be willing to try that as a Zoom meeting kind of a thing over the internet. And I've only ever done it in person with groups of people. I've done it with up to 20 people in a room and had some pretty interesting physical phenomena. At that one, someone's key in their pocket bent and they couldn't start their car. And at the same one, a chair that was not new and had not recently been varnished basically grabbed the fibers off of a sweater and she was stuck to her chair. And when she tore herself off the chair, the fibers of her sweater were embedded inside the chair. So certainly a lot of energy has been generated in person. I don't know how it'll be online since there's that separation. So like I said, it's going to be an experiment. Moida is a very gentle and compassionate spirit. And so, you know, and she's very accepting, non-judgmental, sometimes tells people things. It all depends on whatever it is that she sees from her point of view. So that's what we're talking about. She says, I'm very much looking forward to meeting Moida. So Carla says, Newmite. She recommends that. Teresa says, Ian, can you give me tips on creating that kind of telepathy blocking talisman?
Yeah, I would recommend first, you're going to want to find something which feels appropriate to you. So my thoughts are you could use a piece of steel or iron, or because it's hard, or like petrified rock because the earth element can block everything and be a shield, so you could use that, or whatever kind of imagery affects you the best. I like tigerite and labradorite because they're reflective, so that way it's a shiny shield and reflects everything back. It doesn't absorb it, you know, like an earth shield would have to absorb the impact, but something reflective like a shiny. So you might use some shiny kind of metal. If you had silver talisman, that would be well, I don't know. Silver is more magnetic though, so But whatever makes, you know, um, I would try to choose something natural if you can, so like a stone, not something manufactured, and B, something that fits that image to you. And then the important part is to really charge it up. And with this aspect, I'd recommend just using willpower, and you will it to be that. Make a good image in your mind of how it exactly it's going to work. Like it works when you're wearing it or carrying it in your pocket, and it doesn't work when you're not using it, unless you want it to. But in that case, you can wrap it in silk to make it stop working. So, but use all your willpower and will it, and just spend like, each time you charge it, spend at least 5 or 10 minutes just willing it into that is what it is, that it's this super protected talisman. It's got this power to reflect all of that. And basically, in an esoteric manner, you're transforming it into that talisman. And if you can get it so strong that you really believe it, your deepest self that's so powerful it's going to protect you that way, then you've got it. And I would also recommend, just to make it more solidified and more solid, that you charge it with the idea that as long as it exists and you own it, for as long as you're alive, it remains this powerful and has that. If you fix an end date, like it will be uncharged when you die or something like that, you fix an end date for it, then the charging becomes much more effective on a physical plane and much more materialized down.
And also, if someone steals it or you lose it.
Yeah, that's why I always charge it up. Where when I charging them up, I always enforce the idea with willpower, just will it right into there that it works for me. If I lose it, if I don't own it anymore, it'll be decharged. So that's why I phrase it like that way. For as long as I own it and keep it in good shape, then it has this charge. But if I lose it or it gets destroyed or I'm dead, then it decharges. And then if you add that little bit to it in the charging of it, it's more of a solid effect. You have an actual end date to it.
So Ron says, it's cool, Ian. You are very important in whatever you do to help. Just wanted you to know you are valued as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So Sylph says, what are some good rituals to do during this full moon? And Carla says, the amethyst crystal web. Yes, which we're doing tomorrow night. And if you want to join us, it's a free event. It's on Zoom. I put the link on the community page, posts or whatever on our channel. Or I also have it as an event on Facebook. So you can find it and get the link to it and join in. So Shay says, laughing, Siofra, that's so funny that unbeknownst to you, you were a famous channel. You are the opposite of people who pose as famous anythings. Well, yeah, I mean, I was really surprised when I looked it up. I'm like, what? What are they talking about? I didn't know anything about that. That's just doing my thing. So Robert says, Pneumite is what I use for protection. I don't use labradorite or others. So good, you've already got that. Brianna says, wow, when are you channeling her online? Probably pretty soon, and I'll announce it. We got to come up with the right day, time, or whatever for everybody, for us, and to see what works. And I think it's an interesting time of year to do this with Samhain coming, as the veil is thinning and so forth. So it'd be a good time to try it as an experiment. So Robert says, I have tried a mix of citrine and pneumite, and it's even more strong. He says that Brianna, Siofra, and Ian are talking about this. They're trying to work out the logistics. They'll let you know when it's going to happen. He retracted a message. Okay, so we didn't see that one. She put it up there and then it went away before we got to it. Teresa says, thanks, Ian. How about aluminum foil?
Well, I'd say fine. Practically speaking, though, it'd be easier to I usually make them out of a solid metal. The problem is just of how easily aluminum foil is damaged. But you could always put it in something, That would work fine, but you can get little thin sheets of aluminum at the craft store for not very expensive if you got some way to cut a circle out of it or something.
Right.
It wouldn't have to be a circle, but I just recommend a circle because that way you can imagine it as a full globe of protection all the way around you, circular shape.
Or you could pick up a little
Yeah,
steel ball.
As far as
steel
that
ball
goes,
in your pocket.
there's nothing wrong with aluminum foil that would work. I've seen people actually make an aluminum foil ball and pound it down and It's a whole other YouTube project.
Oh.
Try to make a ball out of it. Ball out of a roll of aluminum foil.
Aluminum foil reminds me of tin foil hats and crazy people. I want to block a crazy person. The problem is their thoughts are still there. They're supposed to be blocking the aliens from hearing
But yes,
what they
you
think.
know, find a way
Yeah.
to, if you find a way to contain it so that it doesn't get damaged, that's, you know, that's the main thing. It's just how easily it's damaged. Otherwise, it works just fine. Of course, organic things are sometimes a lot more easy to charge. I don't know. I don't know the stone bead charge necessarily.
Gary says, hello, y'all from Tennessee, enjoying this autumn time, wishing y'all blessings, peace, protection, and positive energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Zenya Raw says, is it possible to program the sigil that whoever looks at it gives it energy to be charged passively? Like putting stickers in elevators and buildings so each day 50 to 100 gazes give it a full charge?
Yeah, but I look at that as a type of myself, as a type of vampirism.
Me too. Sucking
So-
energy from people who don't know that they're giving you energy
Yeah.
without their permission can lead to
So-
some bad results for you.
Yeah, so I have a ethics problem with it, but otherwise it should be effective if you can do the charging and everything well, but I don't recommend it because you're going to get the karma from that.
So Teresa says it would be used during sleep. UC Ed says, hello, Mrs. Sophie or Siofra. I love you so much. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Always good positive energy coming. It's nice. Haven't seen you on here for either a long time or ever. I can't remember. Teresa says, I love her so much too. UC Ed. Sylph says, what are the ethical ways to gain energy if someone is depleted? Go and talk to a tree, pick up a rock, sit on the ground, breathe in the
Yes.
air, look at the sun, look at the stars.
Yeah, that's the
Air
thing.
is
you know,
is freely available. Take, breathe in
Yeah.
prana, chi, whatever you want to call it, and breathe that in. Ground yourself. Go out and feel the earth's energy coming up from the ground up through your feet, which is freely available. You don't have to have people involved in the process at all. So yeah,
yeah,
and
you know,
eating well.
well, and if you ever go, you know, have a house closed up all day in the winter, and then you open the window, you can, and then you go into another room for a while where the prana is depleted, and then you go back to the room where you got the open window. It's recharged with prana. You can smell it. You can smell it. The energy will just be there. You can pull it right out of the air. You can pull energy out of the sun, the sunlight. You can pull energy out of the moon. That's the thing. You can pull energy out of everything. You know, you don't need to take it from people or, trees. It's not all the same, but basically if you're just talking like energy for something like that, sunlight's a great source. And you can
Yeah.
breathe it right in, you know. The Hindus and the Indian people know all about, at least the esoteric aspects, they know all about breathing in prana and energy and stuff.
Yeah, and I've told you guys about my
Yeah.
experience when I was practicing prana breathing as part of my yoga practice, and I suddenly could actually smell it. I'm not sure, taste it. I'm not sure exactly how to describe what that was, but it's different from just plain old air. And I was very excited, and I ran into every room in the house and took a deep breath everywhere because they said it was everywhere, and indeed it was everywhere.
And you can use, if you're just feeling depleted, I'd recommend breathing in the universal light. So just imagine yourself, close your eyes, imagine yourself surrounded in a sea of light, and feel like you can breathe it in through your breath. And then if you're good enough, if you can meditate enough, you breathe it in through your pores, like you breathe in and out through your pores, and just breathe that light in and fill yourself up with it. It'll replenish your energy, and especially if you put when you're breathing it in, you breathe in with the idea that you want it to replenish you. You breathe in with the idea that you want it to give you energy, and you breathe in with the idea that this energy is very healing and it will heal you.
Yep.
And then if you want to, you can even program it as you breathe it in that it will stay in your body and continue healing you until you're healed or no longer depleted. And
Or you can charge up a glass of water and drink it in,
Sure.
and I've done that. So Carla says, what do you guys think about light language? I don't think I'm familiar with light language
Yeah, I'm
specifically.
not sure what the reference is.
So he'll look that up or something, or we don't know. Zanura says, can it be done without siphoning energy from others and instead to give it energy by just giving attention to it?
Not effectively, really.
Charity says, I believe something mysterious lives behind my parents' house. I keep hearing something making barking, grunting noises. It may be a Bigfoot. I love my childhood woods. I don't want to see Sasquatch. Oh well, staying out of the woods, especially at night. Well, I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to run into a large anything in the dark. Ron says, how about enchanting a glass marble? Program it. If ever out of your personal influence, it's voided. Easy to redo and replace it.
That's fine. I have one little caveat to that. That personally, I find glass a whole lot harder to charge up than a natural stone. So I'd be tempted to, like, you can buy like these amethyst, these strings of amethyst, these little chips of amethyst on a little put together on a little chain, and you can take the amethyst little chips off, and you can program each one. You know, and so that way, if you wanted to have a bunch of them, but it depends. A marble would be fine. Like I say, I just find natural objects easier to charge.
You can actually get marble-sized natural stones.
Yeah.
Little spheres, tiny spheres.
Yeah, if you want to make something like that easier to charge, you can coat it with a fluid condenser, which is there's complicated ones, but a simple one is to make some really strong chamomile black tea, and then coat it with it several times and let it dry. Let that dry on it, and the chamomile will form the chamomile or the strong black tea. It has to be very strong. You know, you don't want just like light chamomile tea. You'd want to use a lot of chamomile and get it on there. But it's a substance that holds energy easier. Things like glass and plastic and that kind of thing. It just naturally accrues them some.
So Beth says, I open all the windows around 1 a.m. and close them at sunrise. Brianna says, that's so cool. Brianna says, light language equals glossolalia. Still don't know it, but thank you. Teresa says, have you ever heard about the Sudarshana chakra, and have you tried working with it?
The term I recognize, but which is that one? Is that the
Sudarshana?
the one that's called the celestial wishing tree? Let me
look it up.
Yeah.
Teresa says, charity, trail cam. Robert says, maybe it's a werewolf. Plenty of those in the USA and France. Chupacabra in Mexico. Okay, so Tia finally got her message through.
Oh, good.
So Carla says, harvested the last of my rosemary, lavender, and catmint today, bringing in the season with a little hedge witchery. Well, he says, I wanted to ask you about an entity or divinity as half wolf, half human. It appeared in my house around 3 a.m. and asked me what you want from me. Could that be Anubis? He's a dog. He's in human shape with a dog head. Possibility, but I don't know. I mean, if you felt uncomfortable with him, telling him to go was the right thing to do, obviously.
Okay, so this looks like the chakra is generally used as a wheel, and it's not a chakra in the body like the other chakras, like the Visita.
Is this one that's above your head kind of thing?
No, it refers to the wheel of Vishnu. So it's a chakra as a wheel, not a chakra in the body. Vishnu in the form of chakra is held as the ideal worship.
He says, was wolf black? Yeah, well, Anubis is black too. I met Anubis in a dreamscape once, well, a couple times, and he was pretty interesting. And I wasn't afraid of him. But you don't want to interact with an entity that you're having a fear reaction to. So if you're having a fear reaction to it, having it stay away. And then if you want to learn, I don't know exactly what it was since I wasn't there, because I mean, there's so many different things out there. It's like the universe is full of variety, nothing less. And if it wanted to know what you wanted, what you want from it, or what it wants from you, still that's like invitation for an energy exchange one way or the other. And so saying no is a perfectly valid response. You shouldn't not do something that you're uncomfortable with doing. Robert says maybe a dog of Hecate. Her hounds sometimes roam around, usually because someone evoked them.
Okay, so on this chakra I'm reading, it later emerged in an anthropomorphic form as a fierce form of Vishnu used for the destruction of demons. So, I'd say it sounds interesting. I'm not familiar enough with it, and you'd have to like do some research on it and understand it. It's not something I've worked with. You'd have to decide if you were that. Considering it's a fierce form of Vishnu used for the destruction of demons part, you'd have to see if you were compatible with that. The article really doesn't say enough. I'd have to read several articles and do a bunch more research to. So sorry, can't.
So Teresa
say
says
that
it's a
for you.
protective weapon that comes out of the index finger of Krishna and other Hindu gods.
So, yeah, so not something I've worked with.
So Brianna says, I had a troll walk through my place once. It was taller than my ceiling. I thought he was adorbs, but was a little nervous because it was just moseying through the place. Tia says, ask me what you want from me. Okay, so he wants to know what you want from him or it. So he thinks that you're invoking him and asking him to come, and he's being bugged. I wonder if maybe it could be a guardian, land guardian of some kind. Potentially, where do you live? Like what part of the world are you in? That might give us a little bit of clue. Robert says lion deity, like Sekhmeth, maybe? No, I don't think a lion would look like a wolf. A dog might, like Anubis could look like a wolf, but not a lion. And there's
Yeah,
non-human
I
entities
looked
that
up
exist
too.
out there that don't have any actual connection to any mythology or story that I can find.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. You might ask. I had a coyote wander up to me one day, mentally while I was just meditating, and told me he was my totem spirit.
He said, "You are mine. You belong
So,
to me."
so yeah. And then later on, he showed me his human form, which wasn't quite human because he couldn't make a human face because he was not a human deity. So his face looked very odd, which I can't really describe. But yeah, so yeah, it's hard to say. It's not one I'm familiar with, but you might try just asking him if it shows up again, unless it's a fear thing or
Well,
negative or something.
if it asked her what she wanted from it, then it's expecting an answer.
Yeah, so
But you could answer it with a question and say, "Who are you? What's your name?"
yeah, I mean you gotta know. I have
I
an
mean,
idea.
you can tell a spirit they need to tell you their name and what they are, and if you have the authority and know that you have the authority to do that, then they have to tell you what they are, and that'd be a more direct way if it showed up again.
Yeah, because that's not an iconography I'm familiar with in
Right.
particular.
Brianna says sounds like Dogman. Robert says land guardian is also possible for sure. Brianna says, do you live in the Midwest because there's a lot of dogman sightings there? Robert says some animals can shapeshift. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was a wolf that was trying to look like a person.
True, well, and supposedly Coyote has shape shifting abilities, and I saw him, like I say, turned humanish.
Right.
In the one image I saw him, the image was mostly symbolic.
You can try like being in a safe environment during the day to see if you can get more information from it, because at night is when we're most likely to have a fear response anyway, because it's dark and we can't see exactly what's going on. If something unusual happens in that kind of environment, we're almost always afraid initially if it's an unexpected event. So sometimes it's a matter of timing.
Yep.
I mean, when I saw the forest troll, I mean, if I had just seen a forest troll when I was, I don't know, I mean, they're huge. I mean, they're gigantic. like Brianna was talking about. They're big. They're taller than a ceiling generally, and not like pretty.
Great chat, by the way, today.
Yeah.
I like it when everybody goes like all kinds of different subjects.
Hey, yeah, it keeps us
Much more
moving.
interesting. That's right. So awesome, guys.
So Brianna
Guys
says,
and
"Do you
girls.
live?" Oh, we asked that. Robert says some animals can shapeshift, and we said that already. Okay. So sorry we had so much trouble getting the question.
Yeah, it's hard to say. We've had people in here before that we've had this happen several times where people's comments just didn't come through, and it takes a while to figure out what's going on because we don't even see an indicator that something didn't come through.
Yeah.
It just doesn't show up at all.
Them and their algorithms.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've met any number of non-human entities over the years, and in general, they're in a place they don't belong. They're not usually asking me those kind of questions, although some of them come and ask for help, depending on what's going on. Robert says, I once had a scary experience. I called upon a jackal spirit, and at night, very weird monster-like growls I heard 2 to 3 times at midnight. It wasn't a usual sound I hear at my location. I guess you got to be careful what you ask for, right? Isn't that what they say? Ron says, I'm still listening to the chat, making my stir-fry dinner. The vibes bless my food. Thank you all so much. You're welcome. We love to bless people's foods. Hey. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we do these chats, is just because we like the community, as it were. So, thank you all for being here. That says, Ron, yummy. Actually sunny today. We've had
Sounds like
rain
that
all
would be a good chakra to
week.
have.
What, the wheel, the spin around
Yeah,
and like
Sudarsana.
smack
Yep.
smack
Like
somebody?
discus,
Yeah.
like Xena's thing.
Oh,
Throw.
Xena Warrior Princess.
That kind of chakra, yeah.
Robert says,
Looks
for
like Xena
Halloween's
used
a
to throw.
devil's cake, on Christmas an angel cake. Teresa says, is it possible that her spirit might have been something that someone else evoked and it got disoriented because the evoked didn't know what they were doing? Anything's possible, but I have no idea.
Chances are, though, because
Chances are probably not the
well,
case.
usually, if people are evoking stuff and they don't really know what they're doing, and by knowing what they're doing, I mean very experienced magically, what most people would call very experienced, then they're likely, rather than doing an actual evocation, they're probably creating a form of an elemental or a equivalent of a yellow element. Mental wouldn't be the right word because if you do it that way, you're usually making it out of your own energy, not out of an element in particular. But a person like that is more likely to create a being than they are to actually evoke the proper one, unless you know a lot about what you're doing.
Well, I had that one
And
person, I never knew who it was, that sent me a demonesque kind of thing. It was attacking me when I was up in Toronto at a hostel, and I sent it back to her. I found a statue of it. So look around and see if you see any kind of pictures or statues or something like that that match the description. What you saw, that might give you something to work with. I don't know.
Yeah, knowing Barden's work though it's really unlikely. I would say that probably nobody I've ever met. I've never met anybody that could evoke a being in the way Barden talks about.
Right.
Not one of them. And I've met a few people now and then. A few times I've met some of the high up mucky mucks in the OTO, including the Supreme and Holy King.
I liked him.
Once, at least, yeah.
He had nice energy.
So, and
that guy did anyway.
But I don't think any of them could do a evocation on the way Barden describes. So there are very few people who can really do a real evocation, and most of them, in my opinion, if they succeed, they're usually creating the being to do their own work without realizing it. So they're making their own servitor basically without realizing they're doing so in most cases.
So Beth says, I'm listening but feeding the cats. And Robert says, yes, Teresa. Carla says, I haven't seen any gnomes yet. I just get birds and animals, feathers, acorns being thrown at me,
Yeah.
etc. I don't know, you got squirrels. They may be throwing things at you. Brianna says, I occasionally hear little fairies under my bed and in my pillow at night chattering and chirping. They sound so cute. But I'm like, guys, I'm sleeping.
Yeah, that's a possible issue too. Sometimes haunted places have bothered us. We're trying to sleep.
Carla says, ooh, Robert, maybe I'll make a homemade devil's food cake for Halloween. Zenura says, is it possible to create a custom word of power sigil that is programmed into spell that can be activated instantly by saying the words out loud if it's pre-programmed before and ready to be cast?
Yes.
But again, you have to be very, very well versed.
It takes a lot of work and a lot of repetition. Not only well versed, but a lot of work and a lot of repetition. And at a minimum, you're going to have to charge it at least 463 times, and that's if you charge it very well
Each time.
and you know what you're doing and really put some oomph into it. If not, it can take thousands and thousands of chargings to make it work. But if you're persistent enough, you can get it. It's another one of these things that gets used in Hindu stuff sometimes by repeating a mantra like 100,000 times. And there are some that's the way to use them. You have to repeat them 100,000 times to get them to work, things like that. So you can accomplish an awful lot that way. It's just very repetitive and time consuming to get it to work. But then you can get them to that point where you can just say a word and use it, and it'll pretty much work automatically. That's the trick, to get them to work automatically. And there are finger gestures you can get to work automatically too, so you don't even need a talisman. You make a particular finger gesture, but you have to charge it up that same way over and over and over again repetitively with full concentration on what the effect is going to be.
We have a protective chant that Garuda gave us that we use. And then I got the hand motions to go with it. And so in the beginning, whenever we did it, we repeated it 9 times every time we did it. And then when we started adding the hand gestures to it and did it the same way, and we're charging up the hand gestures. So now if I'm driving and I'm feeling like people around me are about ready to try and hit me with their cars because they're driving like idiots, I can just do a minimal amount of the hand gestures and activate the chant.
And I have to add a little caveat to that. 463 is for material realization. If you want it to have a mental realization to make somebody's thought forms go away, or an astral realization, because a lot of what we call thought forms can be astral stuff too, with emotions that people broadcast at you, like anger. Anger is usually an emotion, not so much a thought form, that kind of thing. So what you've got is 400 repetitions to make it work astrally if you're full, and if you're very powerful and focused, 60 repetitions to make it work mentally. So you go from there.
I thought 72 for some reason.
Well, no, it's 462. It's what it actually is 463, but it's 2. You do it 2 times in the astral to make it function. If you can be in the astral and pronounce it in the astral, okay? Twice in the astral will make something work if you can do that, which most people can't.
That's after you've done the other 460.
60 times to make it function in the middle plane. Basically,
I see.
And 400 times for an astral plane. For the physical plane, it's the 460 plus the 2. So it's 462 plus 1 extra to make it 463 to make it work on a physical plane. So, and that's assuming you're really powerful. Other people take more repetitions. So it's kind of minimums.
Okay. So, Robert says, good, reserve me a piece, Carla. Carla says, you got it, Robert. Brianna says, the fairies are usually pretty good, but occasionally they push boundaries like my cat and chirp at me in the middle of the night. Carla says, I use abracadabra and use my middle finger as magic. Not joking.
Well, I will point out that the middle finger corresponds to the akaja and is probably, if you want to look at it that way, as something functional, the most powerful element there is.
Right.
But also the most dangerous to yourself if you misuse it. But yes, so the middle finger corresponds to akaja. And that's part of how finger gestures work, is the thumb corresponds to water, your index finger fire, etc., etc.
So Brianna says, one time my cat woke me up for treats at 3 a.m. and then the fairies were chirping and chattering for attention too. They know better, but I think the cat and the fairies are in cahoots.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Beth says, my secret weapon for baking cakes is buttermilk, no oil, no butter, always room temperature eggs, and watch the kitchen magic happen. Too bad he's allergic to milk. Can't use that one, but thank you. Other people can. Sylph says, one night I tried to contact Bastet in a vision. The next morning I found a small cat in my garden. I fed it. Later I saw two men taking the cat and leaving. It was truly strange. Wow.
Sounds cool.
That sounds pretty interesting.
I'd say it's probably positive karma that you fed it.
Yep, sounds like it. Robert says, sounds delicious, Beth. And Carla says, always butter, Beth, for homemade icing too. No Crisco. Robert says, you're all making me hungry. We make a lot of people hungry during our live shows. Carla says, it is, but I'm careful. And Beth says, Robert, try it. Just replace all liquids with whole fat buttermilk. It's magical in brownies. Jam says, hi, Chica and Chico. Hi, Jam. We're almost done with our show, so if you have a question, ask it quick. Brianna says, Beth, can you comment the recipe, please? And Carla says, oh, buttermilk. I only saw butter, but yes, that's yum. Okay. Beth says, Robert, you'll love it, and always Scottish butter for icing.
Scottish butter.
I don't think I've seen Scottish butter in my grocery store. Or says, oh, good idea, Beth. And hey, Jam. Sorry you came in the last few minutes. Just remember, everybody, full moon tomorrow. Amethyst Crystal Web charging time. Charge her up. So we can get some stuff done. Beth says, I don't measure, I just know what to throw in.
Why, your amethyst?
So no recipe. You're on your own. Take a recipe, replace all the liquid that's in the recipe with the buttermilk, and then you're good to go. So, Carla says, I use Kerrygold for baking. Carla says, can't wait, Siofra. Yes, we'll see you there. Robert says, okay, I have an amethyst wand. All right.
Awesome.
We'll see you tomorrow night then. 7 p.m. my time on Zoom. Link is on the site under posts. I put it in. So you can find it.
Amethyst wand. Great. Yep.
Yep, I have an amethyst wand
good
too.
thing to make a wand out of. Yep.
Well, it's made out of magnolia or tulip tree and amethyst, but yes.
But yeah.
Beth says, great, I've blessed be to one and all. Blessed be to one and all. Yep. Apparently I can't talk. Carla says, love you all. See you tomorrow night, guys. Yes. Looking forward to it. Teresa says, I have a wand decorated with amethysts. Yes, me as well. My Acacia wand, which is perfect for the purpose. Ian says, blessed be and thanks for all your wonderful input. Carla says, mine's a silver maple amethyst wand.
Cool.
Awesome. And he says, it's been another great chat. Thanks to you all. Teresa says, I enjoyed this chat. Yes, and so did we, obviously. Sorry, we don't know absolutely everything there is to know in the universe, but hey, we do our best.
We're working on it.
That's right, we're working on it. Another 5,000 lifetimes or so, we should have it done.
Just need to connect into all knowledge.
That's true. Then we don't have to do the lifetimes. We can just
Yes.
have it all available.
There's a talisman for that.
Okay, let's not give it to them right now.
Okay.
We need to go. Talisman for knowledge of all the universe. All right, guys.
Yes. Pretty complicated to make, though.
Well, I imagine so, considering it's for all the knowledge of the entire universe.
Brass. So it's like
Okay. Yeah.
Mercury. Sorry.
Carla says hearts. Robert says take care, everyone. All right, guys. Love you all. Guess we'll see you around next time and see some of you tomorrow night. And then we'll figure out the channeling Moida thing for later. Zenora says thank you for the answers. You're welcome. Teresa says love everyone. All right. Bye.
Bye. All right.